Okay, hi. Shalom Ubracha. Can you hear the background noise? What can I do? There's people learning here. Tinukot Shabbat Rabban. So I don't know if I can stop them. So, anyways, welcome back, everybody. Tonight is going to be 40 days before Purim. Tonight in Halacha, they say it's the yard side of the Shivim Zekinim, the 70 elders who are buried not far in some village called Awarta in Arabic. I was there once. It's pretty scary to go into the cave. But Halacha says 40 days before Purim, Dalet Shvat, is the burial or yard side of the 70 Zekenim when they entered Eretz Yisrael. So I've gone in the past classes a lot into this, that this 40-day period starting tomorrow is basically the preparation for Purim. And Purim is a preparation of Pesach, and Pesach is a preparation for Shavuot, Sefirot Omer, and for the whole entire year now. It's the period of Tshuva Me'ahava, Tshuva out of love, Bezrat Hashem. So everything goes according to the beginning, and really, it's a special period, this 40 days. You know already in Breslov circles that they say, starting tomorrow, the beautiful prayer written by Reb Noson, prayer 37, part 2 of Likutey Tfilot, where in the prayer he says also, Hatzileni miklipat Haman Amalek v'zakeni kedushat Mordechai v'Esther. Right, to save me from the clip of Haman Amalek, to the holiness of Mordechai and Esther, because everything goes according to the preparation. What's amazing is the whole preparation we're davening for is to come to experience the Simcha of Purim. The Simcha of Purim is the key for the entire year. The whole year is dependent on the Simcha of Purim, Bezrat Hashem. If this is done, everything else for the year is opened up. To show you again the idea of this lesson 24, Ki besimcha tetzeu, that with Simcha a person can come out, Bezrat Hashem. So showing that Rebbe Nachman said that now all beginnings are from Purim, right? He said, Mitchila, all beginnings were from Pesach, because everything is Zecher L'Tziat Mitzrayim. Unheint, but now, and he didn't complete, Reb Noson completes the statement, he understood from Rebbe Nachman's gestures that now all beginnings are from Purim. You would think, how come Rebbe Nachman, why don't you just say it? Say it. But now all beginnings are from Purim. Why do you need Reb Noson to say, to fill in the blanks, and for Reb Noson to say, Hevanti mitnu otav, I understood from his gestures that he indicated that all beginnings are now from Purim as opposed to Pesach. Okay? What's the idea of Reb Noson having to be the one to do that? So the idea is that Reb Noson is like Yehoshua. He's the student. Rebbe Nachman called Reb Noson, Du bist meine Yehoshua. You're my Yehoshua, the Talmud. And it says in the Torah, coming up in Parshat Beshalach, next week's Parsha, Tze hilachem ba'amalek. You, Yehoshua, you go fight Amalek. Okay? So Rebbe Nachman left it open. This is a possibility. This is my insight. Rebbe Nachman didn't complete explicitly, now all beginnings are from Purim. He wanted Reb Noson to do it, because Reb Noson corresponds to the idea of Yehoshua, who's the idea of the Talmud who fights Amalek. He's the one battling. Yehoshua fights Amalek because he has to get into the shmutz and the balagan of all the battles of the klipot. This is the avodah of Yehoshua as opposed to Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu, he's the one involved in teaching and giving over the da'at, davening from Israel, yes, but when it comes to Amalek, you need dafka, the student who goes through the biggest, the challenges of what's called the tree of knowledge of good and evil, Etz Hadat Tov Hara. He's the one who has to fight there. So it's fitting that he fights Amalek, who's a shape changer. Amalek is all the bilbulim, confusions, which also emanate from the chamber of exchanges, Echalat Murot, which is the ability of Amalek to non-stop drive people nuts. All the doubts, because Amalek is Gematria Safek, all the doubts, all the confusions, all that comes from Amalek, and all that is the characteristics of the chamber of exchanges, Echalat Murot, which he discusses in this lesson coming up in the next section, section number 10. Until now, Rebbe Nachman didn't mention at all Hechalat Murot, the chamber of exchanges. Only lesson 10 does he bring it in and shows how it was there all along. That's the whole problem and difficulty here of trying to be besimcha and trying to get out of Galut Bezrat Hashem. So, these 40 days are special. 40 days to daven, to be zochet to the light of Mordechai and Esther, which means to have simcha, to really, if you're happy on Purim, you're in. Okay, you need to daven a lot, because every year people say, I didn't drink enough, I didn't do this, I had high expectations. You have to work on one thing, Purim, which is what? No matter what happens, that I'm happy, B'ezrat Hashem, that I'm mamash besimcha. This is the key. So this requires preparation, and the main preparation for that are these 40 days. So it's very special. It's a big zchut for those who can say this beautiful prayer. Part 2 of the Likutey Tfilot, prayer number 37. Okay, with all that said, as that's what's happening tonight. Tomorrow we should be zoche to really get into the energy of Purim now. And we will, again, like every year, try to bring in insights connecting Purim to lesson 24 while we give these classes, B'ezrat Hashem. But now, we want to finally finish Reb Noson's summary in lesson 24, paragraph number 9, the long section. And Reb Noson now is going to complete with explaining the concept of mate, velo, mate. But before we go into it, Reb Noson says such unbelievable things. You know, I don't get it. When you read Reb Noson's writings, you almost have a negation of your free will, bitul bechira. He takes you to such places in understanding that you see the whole like pinnacle of creation is in this, and how could it be that people are sleeping their lives away and not learning these unbelievable ideas? Okay, he says like this, Reb Noson. He gives a beautiful summary. He says that the 9 chambers, which we went into already, and Reb Noson says go into it again now. The 9 chambers, Reb Noson says, is basically the bridge between this world and the next. Because on one hand, it's numbers, it's 9. But on the other hand, it's rooted in what's above numbers. And this is something which is impossible to understand. This concept, Reb Noson goes into another lesson of Rebbe Nachman, lesson 2 of Likutey Moharan, part 2, where there's what's called pe'ulot hamishtanot hanimshachim mi'achdut hapashut, that you have a single unity, which is Hashem, and He's one. There's only one, and yet from one comes many. Pe'ulot mishtanot, all types of activities, actions, different variances, varieties, all the changes, shinim of the creation, they come from one. That, according to our logic, is impossible to figure out. It's impossible. How could you have many coming from one? How could it be? It's totally impossible. It doesn't make sense. Okay, so there's something here which is bridging them, and he says, Reb Noson, this is the number 9. Why the number 9? If you look in numbering systems, all the numbering systems of the world, if it's the Chinese numbering system, Japanese, the Syrian, Assyrian, European, Latin America, everyone, they go up to 10. That's it. In other words, 9, and then 10 is a repeat of 1. It goes after the fingers. Hashem made it that people count using and started with the fingers. We have 10 fingers, right? 5 and 5. So that's the maximum. And then when you want more, so we use this unit of 5 and 5, which is 10, to make additional units to 11, 21, 31, 101, 1,001, 1,000,001. Everything is in tens, but the 10 is really going back to 1. Because 7, 8, 9, 10. What's 10? It's again the number 1, but 10 units of number 1. But it's a repeat. I went backwards. So if Noson says 9, the number 9, is the root of all numbers. Why do we say that? Why do we say number 1 is the root? Because we get up to number 9. Once we reach the number 9, then we go back to 10, which is really like a 1 and a 0. And it's like the root. We're going back to a achdut, a unity. Number 1 means a singularity, a single unit, okay? So when you get to number 9, which is a plural, and then you would say, okay, let's continue. What's after 9? Another number. No, it goes to 10. What's 10? It's like you're going back to the unit of 1. Okay, it's 10 units, but of 1. It's not 10 units of a number that exists after 9. No, what's after 9? It's the 1 again. I went back. So Noson says, in mathematics itself, you see this crazy phenomena, how plurality is rooted in a singularity. Because look, 7, 8, 9, and then right after 9, I go to 1 again. So Reb Noson says number 9 is the closest proximity to the 1. In other words, it's plural, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then right after that 9, we go back to 1 again. So that means that the 9 is the root. It's so close to the root because right after 9, it goes back to 1. So the phenomena of mathematics and seeing Hashem in mathematics is that it shows that all the multiplication, the multiplicity of mathematics, of numbering, it's rooted in the 1. Because look, right after 9, I jumped back, I reconnected to 1. It's 10, fine, but it's 10 units of 1. It went back to 1. You can't deny that. 20 is like 20 units of 1, 30 units of 1, okay? It's going back to that 1. 100, 10 units of 1, a million, 1,000, etc., okay? It's all going to the 1, and the number closest is 9. So Noson says 9 is the maximum root source of numbering, because right afterwards it goes to 1. From numberings itself, you see Hashem. You see this concept of a multitude, a plurality, rooted in a singularity. Because right after 9, you go to 10, which is 1 again. Okay, so he says, Reb Noson, this itself is the contradiction. It's numbers, yet they go to a singularity. This is where Rebbe Nachman teaches in this lesson that when the mind of a person who's coming from a plurality existence, from this world where there's so much, there's a lot of everything. There's trees, animals, species, insects, bugs, humans, nations, trees, fruit, vegetation, sea life, animal life. There's so much, and I'm coming from there. Man is the maximum capacity of the creation, especially man who's connected to finding Hashem, which is a Jew, and in particular of the Jews, the tzaddikim. Okay, the tzaddikim manage successfully to tap into the 9 chambers. They reach the 9 chambers, and these 9 chambers, because they're created from the mind trying to run past the boundary is the keter, like we said until now. It's a wall. The person's mind is yearning and running to perceive the infinite light, because that's the source of all the chayut and shefa, he said in the lesson of Rebbe Nachman. He's going to say in paragraph 10 that the infinite light is the root of a person's sustenance and life force. So it only makes sense that a person's mind, when he's on the right pathway, is racing to perceive that which is beyond him. Okay? So by going past the keter, at least the mind is attempting to going past the keter, and then the keter puts on the brakes, the wall, the bitisha, the smash, like we said, in order to have the mind settled. And the mind is running, so it gets bounced back, and in the bounce back, because of the momentum of the running, the momentum doesn't disappear. Okay, in other words, the wall of the keter, it's like, for example, a car running at 500 kilometers per hour into a wall. Okay, the energy didn't just stop. There's a continuity, there's a momentum. In the case of a car, it smashes to pieces. In the case of a mind, the bounce, if he's a tzaddik and he's on the right path and he's always working on being besimcha, he doesn't smash and crash totally. The bounce is taken properly, and he has enough rubber in his spirituality to bounce back and not be damaged totally, not to be totally broken and misplaced. The tzaddikim, when they have the bounce back, they have enough rubber to let the bounce the back to create 9 chambers. But again, there was momentum, spiritual momentum from the mind. So that momentum doesn't just disappear, it goes somewhere. The energy went to intertwine the chokhmah, bina, dat, the 3 sections of the mind, of the Jewish mind, the mind who's trying to perceive God, the chokhmah in perceiving God, the bina in perceiving God, and the dat. There are different faculties of the mind with the energy that was going so fast, and the wall, so the energy has nowhere else to go but amongst them, the chokhmah, bina, dat, so become intertwined, intertangled, creating 9, 3 times 3. There's the chokhmah of chokhmah, There's the bina of chokhmah. There's the da'at of chokhmah. Then there's the chokhmah of bina of bina, and the da'at of bina. And then there's the chokhmah of da'at, the bina of da'at, and the da'at of da'at. These are nine sections, creating 9 chambers. And in these 9 chambers, does the infinite light come in from what's beyond the person? Comes in, but even then, in and out, mate vela mate, in and out to give its light and then to depart. And from that, the tzaddikim, they perceive what they have to perceive. So Reb Noson says something unbelievable. He says, since the average person cannot reach this, the whole world is dependent on the success of the tzaddikim doing this. When the tzaddikim succeed in creating at their high level the 9 chambers, this becomes the gateway of nourishment, shefa, bracha, blessings and abundance for the whole world. Everyone is dependent on this. Everybody needs that the tzaddikim successfully at their high level do that. And according to their level of doing that, they succeed shining into all the people in the world, and especially those who are closer to the tzaddikim, because the closer you are, the better you have reception, and you have good Wi-Fi, spiritual Wi-Fi, good reception. And you too, on your level, have your 9 chambers also created, and your personal low challenges at your low level, whatever you're going through, but you have this also happening. But by the tzaddikim, when they do it, it's not for their personal gain, chas v'shalom, because they're tzaddikim. Their whole life, like Moshe Rabbeinu, is for the Jewish people, for the world, to help the world come back to God. So the tzaddikim are conduit by this happening on their level for the rest of the world. By doing this, they connect the whole creation, which is based on numberings, right? Everything is numberings. The trees, the grass, the cells, the chromosomes, the DNA, everything is a multiplication, multiplicity, numbers. Everything is based on numbers. That's all of creation. The fish, the sea, the animals, plural, humanity, plural, buildings, the air molecules, everything in the world is a multiplicity. And the tzaddikim take all that and merge it with the infinite light on a national level by them creating the 9 chambers, which on one hand are on the lower side of the keter, yet they contain within them what's beyond the keter, what's above the keter, the infinite light. It goes into it. Okay, this happens by this bounce. Okay, so Reb Noson says these are just amazing ideas that all of life is in this. When you hear this, you say, this is unbelievable. Who even talks about these things? But he says this is the greatness of the tzaddikim. Reb Noson, in his letters that he wrote when he was really learning this discourse towards the end of his life, in the year 1843, the end of December, January, November, December, January, February of 1843, 1844, Reb Noson put himself very much into this lesson. And in his letters that he was writing at that time period, he writes, how fortunate are we to even just talk about and mention these ideas and just know that they exist. It's already a healing, and it's already enough for us to be happy for our entire lives, just that we know about these ideas. If we're holding there or not, that's another thing. We're trying our best. We're human beings. We have a lot of ups and downs. We're suffering a lot of the chamber of exchanges, which mixes up the whole world. There's galut, okay? No one's perfect. All these difficulties. But at least that there were tzaddikim who worked hard for us. They managed to perceive such ideas and then bring it down to us, little us, even in English, so far from wherever it's rooted. And yet we know about these things. That itself should bring us enough simcha that at least I know these ideas. Okay, my davening is not the best. My holiness, my purity, my serving Hashem, my Torah study, my davening is not the best. But I know of these ideas. And he says, Reb Noson, and I'm not against, and I don't disregard such outstanding tzaddikim who reveal such amazing teachings to help us, Baruch Hashem. And he says, Reb Noson, for that itself, Ashreinu. How fortunate are we to have these things. So with that introduction, let's now go into the text, and we're going to finish finally, hopefully today, this section. So he says like this, Uperush mate velo mate. Now the meaning of what Reb Noson is quoting the Zohar that Rebbe Nachman quoted earlier from Parshat Noach, the famous Zohar Parshat Noach 65a. And you can imagine Reb Noson writes in his letters, he said, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai came down, revealed such a teaching, the Zohar on Parshat Noach 65a, that no one can even understand what he's saying. And it's true. We mentioned this in previous classes, that all the commentaries on this part of the Zohar, they say we're stuck. We don't have no idea what's really happening here in explaining what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is saying. The best we can do is the best we can do. Is like they admit that the commentary and explanation given is like, it's like a minimum. It's like the best that we can reach to try to give an explanation. And here, Rebbe Nachman, lesson 24, he does give an explanation on a very practical level that even a regular person, a regular, sincere, honest Jew, an honest person can connect to B'ezrat Hashem. It's phenomenal what he says, okay? But that Rebbe Shimon revealed such amazing teaching. So in there is this terminology called mate velo mate. Mate velo mate appears a lot in the Kabbalah. It is a concept. But it's explained differently than how Rebbe Nachman's explaining it here, and how the Zohar is explaining it here. It's used in different terms in the Arizal's writings, in the Ramak. Okay, we're not meant to go into that right now. We want to focus on how Rebbe Nachman's explaining it. This term mate velo mate, which means reaching and not reaching, touching and not touching. Rav Chaim Kramer says very nicely in the commentary in the BRI edition of the Likutey Moharan. He says the analogy can be compared to a man who touches an object, but by how he stretches to his maximum, stretching, and then he can touch the idea, touch the item. It's not internal. He can just touch it. He can't bring it to him. He can just touch it. So he has access to it, but again, it's not part of him. It's touching and it's foreign. I can't bring it into me and take it away. So too, he says, mate vela mate is that idea that I'm reaching. I'm able to touch the item, whatever it is, the concept, but that's it. I can only touch it. That's already the lo mate, that it's not reaching. It's reaching, but not reaching means I can't internalize it. It stays beyond me. It allows me to experience it for a moment, a flash, but that's it. So look what he says here. Perush mate velo mate, the meaning of reaching and not reaching, yadua lemevinim, period. Reb Noson says, it's known to those who understand, those who learn Kabbalah, those who understand. They know this term, because like we said, it pops up a lot in Kabbalistic writings of mate velo mate. It pops up a lot. Dahainu shemagia ve'eno magia. In other words, that you reach, but yet you don't reach. That's how it is in life, by the way, for everything. This rule applies for everything. Whether a person who's doing tshuva and trying to come, he has a dream. I want to finish the entire Talmud. I want to finish the entire Shulchan Aruch. I want to become a perfect tzaddik gamur, tzaddik shalem, and everything. Okay, so you have your aspirations, but then in life doesn't let you have all that. you're at maximum when you leave this world. You salvage. You grab here. You grab. Everything's grabbing in life. Everything in life was grabbing. I tasted a little bit of this. I tasted like that. I had the experience of being in Meron Lag B'Omer. I had the experience of being in Uman Rosh Hashanah. I had the experience of being by the Kotel. I had a bar mitzvah. I had a wedding. I had a bar mitzvah. I brought children into the world. I had Shabbos, Yom Tov, Pesach. I learned this. I finished one Masechta. I finished this. I did a lot. I gave tzedakah, mitzvot, going to the mikveh. I was able to do self-sacrifice for certain items to come close to Hashem. But it's not consistent. It's not constant. But it was in and out because we're still in this world. And everything in life is in and out. Even by the biggest tzaddikim, Rebbe Nachman says, you can take a look at lesson 16, that even the tzaddikim at their high level, they also have an in and out. They can't be totally davuk. You can't be totally connected, totally glued. There's no crazy glue in Judaism. We're not crazy glued. In, out, in, out. First of all, the in and out allows you to appreciate, every time you start again, appreciate what you're doing, to have appreciation. Rav Yitzchak Breiter, you can take a look in the 7 Pillars of Faith, the little BRI pamphlet, the soft cover little book, 7 Pillars of Faith. He says that the reason why a person has in and out is because every time he goes in, he just gets overwhelmed by the light and comes in haughtiness and all these things which are not wanted. So the person has no choice but to crash. And until a person reaches a level where he can go in and it won't affect him like the tzaddikim, so then the ball game shifts and he gets a new dimension, a new level in the game, in the video game, the Havdil, in the game of coming closer to Hashem and fulfilling your mission and your tikkun in this world, Bezrat Hashem. Okay, so everything is mate vela mate. Everything is reaching and not reaching. And he says, "Magia ve'enu magia," right? And Reb Noson he explains it better. Shirodef umagia lehasig, that a person is running, is pursuing, umagia, and he reaches by his pursuing lehasig, to perceive godliness, awareness, a heightened awareness in life, because there's endless levels there. There's endless levels beyond what you think. Life, material level, is garbage. That's it. The same people, the same boss, the same work. How's good morning, Jill? How's a cup of coffee? And the world is like same person. You can go to like a supermarket, okay, and you know somebody's working there, and 20 years later you come back to the supermarket, the same person is there. They have white hair, gray hair, and it didn't change. Exactly how he is now 20 years later. That's how I remember him. Exactly the same thing. What in the world? Physicality is like that, like very not moving, very stagnant. Okay, even people were making money and this and that. Okay, whoopee-doo. You have your big house and everything, but you didn't change. The worldly matters is stagnant and dead within a box, trying to reach maximum wealth, but everything's empty. Whereas in Judaism, in perception of God, you have no idea what in the world is out there. There's always more and more. It doesn't end. It does not end. And again, it's a big stupidity for the world. They're just so blind by the Yetzirah not to see the beauty of wanting to come close to Hashem, because there's so much out there. There's so much out there. When you begin to learn Torah, you begin to wonder, how is it that people can give like 23 hours a day to this world and they just learn a little bit of this Torah? There's so much here, and it's unbelievable, and there's endless depth at every level. Pshat, Remez, Drashot, all the levels of the Torah. There's so much out there, and people, they rather run for like Club Med and to go see movies and this and vacation and family life. It's dull and boring compared to what's out there. So that shows why it makes a lot of sense when someone is exposed to this light. It's only normal they want to drop this world and just try to run after Hashem while in this world. It makes sense because there's so much out here. But even then, Hashem says, hey, take it easy, in and out, in and out. You have to still be mundane. You have to still change diapers. You have to still do regular things, and yet to have the accessibility to the highest experiences that you can, Bezat Hashem. And that itself is simcha. That itself, a person has every reason to be happy that that's his part, that he's in and out. Other people, they don't have in and out. They're just dead. Okay? So again, just going back, I'm going off a little because this is very exciting what he's talking about. It's very important for all of life. Shirodefu magia lahasig, that a person is running and reaches to perceive. But nonetheless, he doesn't reach and perceive, in and out. And that this is formed through the running of the mind and the me'akev, being bounced back by the keter mentioned above. And even though these chambers that we mentioned, the 9 chambers, are formed, these are chambers, and we said heichal is like the letters kli, it's a vessel. So even though these vessels are made, afal pichen la yediya vela ityada. Nonetheless, like we said, the analogy Reb Noson brought of the tzaddikim, how their positioning of perceiving the 9 chambers is taking all of creation and unifying it with the unity of God, right? That the connection is, so because of that, on one hand they're 9, which means a number, which means on one hand, like we explained in the beginning of the class today, from Reb Noson's Likutey Moharan, you can look it up if you want. It's in Nefilat Apayim, discourse number 4, paragraph number 16. Okay, so even though we have these hechalim, these chambers made, afal pichen la yediya vela ityada. Nonetheless, you can't perceive them. La yediya vela ityada, they can't be perceived. In other words, whether the lacking is from your side, the recipient, whether it's the item itself, it's on the brisker terms, cheftza and gavra, the item, whether it's the cheftza, the item itself, that makes itself unknown, makes itself unattainable. In other words, you yourself have limitations, So we can blame you that it's your fault because of your lackings that you can't perceive. He said that's one side, yes. But the other side is la itiada. It itself, it makes itself unknown. It's hidden. Even for those who can pursue, they don't have access. Inaccessible. Okay? So don't even try. You yearn to connect, and yet you can't. Phenomenal idea in life. Phenomenal. This, in a nutshell, is the joining of da'at and emunah. If you want this on practical terms, it's knowledge and faith, how they work together. You're learning. Why am I learning and perceiving? To realize how much I don't know and how much I have to rely on emunah. Meaning that always the da'at is going to strengthen the emunah, always in life. More emunah. The goal of a Jew, tachlit hayediyah asher lo yeda. The goal of knowing, this quotation brought down by Rebbe Nachman many times. Tachlit hayediyah asher lo neda. The goal of knowing is to realize I don't know. The Torah allows you to understand. When you're learning a Gemara, halacha, the story in Chumash, Rashi, you have to understand. Fine. But the deeper you go, the more you realize how you don't know, and you have no choice but to rely on emunah, and your level of emunah is heightened, commensurate and dependent on how much you dig to go deeper in understanding, with the vessel, with the foundation of emunah, so you can go deeper and then realize how much you don't know and throw yourself back on a stronger, solid base of emunah. So da'at and emunah are always in life, always. That's the in and out also. In da'at, out emunah. In da'at, out emunah. That's the practical explanation of this term of mate vela mate. Okay. So going back, la yediya velait yeda velait man dekaima behu. Reb Noson is just re-quoting the Zohar Rebbe Nachman quoted earlier from Parshat Noach 65a. Leit man dekaima behu. There's no one who can stand in this perception of the 9 chambers. Vela mitdabikin. You can't attach yourself to them, just a touch. Vela yadein, and they're not knowable. Okay, from all corners, impossible to penetrate. You create them, you experience them, but you can't internalize them. It's like a quick boost. What for? To give you nourishment and life force in life. Okay? Kaniz kalel, as mentioned above. Ki efshar letzayer basechel hasagot elu echalot hanizkarim le'el. Reb Noson again, he's summarizing. Because it's impossible to construe an image, a tziur, a shape in your intellect of the perception of these chambers. We said, remember, Hechalot is a kli, a vessel. Vessel containing the 9 vessels containing the light, the infinite light. There's no way even for you to pursue and to shape in your mind the perceptions of these chambers, just the vessels. The vessels, forget about the light coming in. The light coming in, for sure you have no grasp. It's infinite light. But maybe the vessel, not even the vessel. Ki hem lemala minafshin ruchin v'nishmatin. Reb Noson again is using quotations and the wording, the format of the wording from the Zohar, 65a, Parshat Noach. Ki hem lemala, because they are above the level of the soul, the level of the ruach, the level of the neshama. These 3 levels, there's 5 levels of the soul, right? Nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya yechida. The one that we have interaction with on a technically conscious level, if you have the merit, not everyone has it. You have to work very super duper hard to be connected to your neshama. Take a look at lesson 22, Likutey Moharan, where Rebbe Nachman talks about the neshama and the body. How the neshama is always perceiving things and the body knows nothing about it. So a person is like connected to his physicality and he has no idea what his neshama is always seeing. So he's saying that this light is above, even if you were to tap into the maximum of the neshama, it's still way above it. Okay? Lemala minafshun ruchim nishmatim. Above all intellects that you can possibly think of, and you might think, well, if I learn this meditative skill, I'll connect. If I learn this type of learning, if I do this type of conditioning, of training, of discipline, I can connect. He's saying here, sorry, nothing will get you there. You'll try the maximum, you won't connect. The whole problem of all these shitas, all these people who try to go to Eastern religions and everything, and meditative states, they think they can bypass to get to this perception. Rebbe Nachman is saying already, Rebbe Noson has explained what Rebbe Nachman is saying, forget it. Know ahead of time that you're attempting to grasp something that you can't grasp. And if you know that on the onset, so you won't try to kill yourself to find alternative ways to connect. You'll just stay where you are with simple emunah, continuing the path that you're on already in Torah and mitzvot and good deeds, and serving Hashem at your level with a lot of emunah. And this itself brings upon the simcha, and that's how you connect. You know, again, this reminds me what Rebbe Nachman said in Shivchei Haran, the praises of Rebbe Nachman, the part of the book Rebbe Nachman's wisdom where he talks about his greatness, that Rebbe Nachman reached a level to see that the greatest level in serving Hashem is simplicity. Because you would think, like in university, oh, I have a degree, I have a bachelor's, I have a PhD, and he's a professor and this and that and that and that and that and that, and he's like, you can pop because he's just too much. Judaism is the exact opposite. Judaism is simplicity. The highest level to connect to God is by staying simple. You can learn anything in the Torah, but it doesn't even dent your simple emunah and attitude in serving Hashem. That's the highest level, Rebbe Nachman teaches. That's the highest level, just to be simple. Where you are, to connect to God from there in simplicity, with simple faith and simple devotion at your level, and not to say, oh, I can't do this. It's like, how am I ever going to get there and this and that? Find the tzaddikim. But when it comes to you, you have to, the way they made it and the way you can make it is you have to work with what you have at your level and invest in it and believe in it. That's simplicity, simple faith, simple devotions, etc. This is how you get to the highest level. So those people who think all these meditative skills and techniques and this, I don't know if it's breath work, I don't know what you want to call it. I'm not going to go into these things. But thinking of alternative ways of focusing on them, nachon in the Torah and this and that. But depends in the Torah what you focus on. Even in Rebbe Nachman's teachings, he'll speak about many things. The question is, what should be focused upon even in Rebbe Nachman's teachings? That's why we need the Brestover Hasidim as an example to learn what they did. What they did, if the last generation, the last 2 generations ago, 3 generations ago, to see how they did. And not to say, a different generation, they didn't know, they didn't have technology like we did. On one hand, yes. But on the other hand, there are fundamentals in their behavior that apply even today, especially today, and you have to learn from them. You have to learn from our elders from the previous generations. That's also simplicity. Al Kopanim, let's just continue. Lemala mikola sefirot. These 9 chambers are above any possible level of intellect. Because again, and then Reb Noson is reminding us, because these lights of the vessels, forget about what's coming in the infinite light, the lights of the vessels, came lemala mea sefirot v'chule. They're above the sefirot. We said, Reb Noson explained, Rebbe Nachman explained, and the Kabbalah explains that these 9 chambers are what's called orot hatzachtzachot, the light of splendor. We went into tzachtzach a lot, if you remember, in paragraphs 7 and 8. These are above the sefirot, levels that the Arizal says we can't even touch upon. They're not mentioned in the Kabbalah. They're not even mentioned because they're way above. And he says these 9 chambers are from there. They're rooted in the orot hatzachtzachot. They're above the sefirot. Sefirot, by the way, means numbering. Sefira mispar. Reb Noson says this connection. That 9, it's a number, and yet the 9 chambers are above the numbering system. Because they're the bridge between infinite light and numbers of the world. Misparim. So that's why they're above the sefirot. Even though they're a number 9, that's what we can't figure out. It's a 9 that's really not a 9. It's a 9 that's really unified in this singularity of Hashem. This is beyond our grasp, these things. Beyond our grasp, okay? So they're above the sefirot v'chole. And Reb Noson now summarized, Kamevuar le'el b'shon Rabbeinu Zal. As it was mentioned above paragraphs 7, 8 in Rebbe Nachman's wording exactly. So Reb Noson summarizes, Ayen sham heitev, see there carefully, v'tavin, Reb Noson is like giving a warning. Tavin shelo safti shum davar klal, and don't think that I added anything here. I didn't add anything. I didn't add anything to Rebbe Nachman said, I'm just elaborating. Ki bichlal dvarav dvarai, because in his words are included what my words. What I spoke here is hinted to in his is addressed to in his teachings. Rak chazarti. So what did I do? Reb Noson writes, Rak chazarti ve'arti advarim k'tzat. Rather, I just went over and explained the items mentioned a little, and that was necessary to do. There was a need to do that. Legodel otzem amkutam ad ein sof, because of how awesome and deep are these teachings ad Ein Sof, until the infinite light. That's how deep and far-reaching they are. It's funny because there's a modern day teacher who's against Breslov, and he says, I'm not against Rebbe Nachman. I'm against Reb Noson, Rebbe Natan, how he, quote unquote, distorted what Rebbe Nachman meant. Reb Noson doesn't distort. He's saying here, I'm just explaining what Rebbe Nachman is saying. I'm not coming to distort at all. And people who think that Reb Noson, you can do Breslov by Reb Noson, you have nothing in your hand. You have nothing. Everything from A to Z was through the student. And Rebbe Nachman put his hands on him, like he gave him as a smicha and trust that he's the one to carry the flame, the flag of the continuity. So just people separate, oh, Rebbe Nachman, he's one thing, and then the disciples distorted. That's total false, total sheker. Okay, so he's going back to the idea. This is why there are made specifically 9 chambers. We went into this now. Because we said the mentalities are 3. Chochma bina da'at. And because of them, the mind running and smashing, hitting into the me'akev, the wall that's preventing them from advancing, which is the keter, mentioned above. So like we said, the energy has to go somewhere, so it goes amongst them. Hem nichlalin ze bazeh, they become intertwined, intermingled. Chochma bina da'at, etc. So it becomes multiplied, 3 times 3. V'na'asa kol echad kalul mishalosh. Each one becomes made up of 3, multiplied. V'shalosh pamim shalosh shem tisha. That's how you get to 9, like we explained, the chochma, etc. Right? That's how you get to the number 9. V'zeu bechinat tisha echalin hanizkarim. This is the idea of the 9 chambers mentioned above. Now Reb Noson summarizes: Ashrei mi sheyizke lelech ve'la'alot b'derech hakodesh hane'emar b'Torah hazot. Fortunate is the person who has the merit to go, to walk with, and to be elevated, to ascend, b'derech hakodesh, and this holy pathway that's mentioned in this lesson, because you can see that it's absolutely awesome. This is all of life in this concept here. Ad sheyizke l'hasagot elu, to the merits, to these perceptions. Reb Noson adds in the Likutey Moharan, and if you see that you're far from this, so at least daven to come close to and attach and believe in tzaddikim who did reach these levels, or the tzaddikim who reveal such teachings. So just have faith in them, and you at your little level, you will eventually come to a higher potential that you can ever imagine that you would ever reach in your life. You're not the highest level, but at least a level much higher than you expected and anticipated that you would reach in your life. Okay, we'll stop here. Whew. That was pretty intense. Next class, B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to finish off the sections of the Likutey Tfilot on these paragraphs that we just read, B'ezrat Hashem, before we go on the lesson, okay? To get more pointers from Reb Noson's prayer, which explain the lesson also. And if you have any questions or comments on what we spoke about, you can always reach out to me by WhatsApp. The number is +1 732 800 1863. Once again, 732. It's a New Jersey number. 800 1863. Shalom. Be well. Shabbat shalom, and have an amazing 40-day start in preparation for Purim. Shalom, shalom.